Welcome back to another edition of Star Power Club. I'm Amy Stair, CEO, and boy, am I excited to have with us today Brad Korn from Kansas City, Missouri, really the whole state of Missouri, and we're going to talk about that. Brad, you were originally interviewed what year?
2007.
Wow. So this is exciting because we're going to talk about some major shifts you've made in the business, but why don't we start with how the heck did you wind up in real estate to begin with?
Yeah. I was working retail and you work weekends and holidays. So I thought I'd get into real estate so I wouldn't have to work weekends and holidays. Actually, I just got out of the mall. My wife was also on track to do that. We were both on track to be district managers for a company, Levi store or Gap or something like that. And I was looking for a way to get out of the mall life. And we were both on the same track. So it was easy for me to go ahead and do the real estate thing. I thought I was going to make like $10,000 every time I sold a house. And so I was like, I'm going to be rich.
And what was reality?
Yeah, it took me, I did make $10,000, but you have to add up the first 3 years of my real estate career. And I had 2 jobs on the side to make money while I was playing real estate. Yeah, it was a tough start.
So then you got serious. What did that look like?
Yeah, it was bumping into Star Power. It was a real estate conference. And at that time, I think even in the original interview, I was talking about how I went to a lot of conferences, took tons of notes, had a nice stack of all the notes and all the ideas to make it in real estate, but hadn't implemented anything. So it really took moving back to Kansas City and saying, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it right. Now I'm home where I have a sphere, because I actually started in Minneapolis. My first 3 years of real estate were in Minneapolis, no sphere, no nothing, just sitting in a cubicle. So I went back home and started building my list and started implementing the things that Howard and all the stars were talking about. And I mean, I am just a product of every star in this group. From that time.
I appreciate that. And I would also say, Brad, what I know about you is that you have tenacity and a work ethic when it comes to your outreach. So talk to us a little bit about what it looks like now, Brad staying in touch with his sphere of influence. We got a lot of people watching who, unfortunately, even though that's the best source of business for all of you guys, are still not picking up the phone and talking to people. So what's your rhythm? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, so it's like when I go to anything, everything boils back down to my top 3 ideas from anything I go to. We just had our Star Power conference recently, and it's you narrow the top 3 ideas down. Well, in the beginning stages, the very first major Star Power conference I went to, my very first idea was a moving truck. It was so cool, right? And it was still one of my best marketing things I've ever done. But when I got back from the conference and there's a moving truck sitting in the parking lot, and my wife and partner at the time goes, "What's that?" And I was like, "I don't know, I must have ordered it." Because they told me to. So that was like a $40,000 truck, right? So the first couple years where I was doing these 3 things and implementing and spending money, I finally got to the point where it's like, okay, there's some great ideas here that cost no money, that increase my productivity, increase my ROI, make me better in touch. So I got to the point eventually where every year at the conference, my top 3 things didn't cost any money at all. It was putting systems and implementation of just being more efficient and better follow-up. And so I started watching my ROI more.
Yeah.
So I've really boiled it down to when we say go back to the basics are so basic, nobody does the basics. Like,
I know.
the basic doesn't mean go back and buy another moving truck. You go more basic than that. And it's really just being top of mind and using your local relationships.
So what specifically are you doing with your sphere?
Yeah, so what I realized over the years is that everybody in my community is moving. And when I look at what the real estate industry is doing, it's like we're clamoring to get all these strangers and buy all these internet leads and try and get in front of people buying and selling real estate, while at the same time, the people that know us, like us, and trust us that we see in our community. I mean, think about how many people your church group is not in your database. Oh, I don't want to sell to my church group. You know, that would just be horrible. My men's group, like none of them were in my database forever. Some of them still are not. but I'm adding to my database every single day when I make a really great connection. The point I'm getting at is that everybody in my community who already knows me is moving as well. So I can either get 1,000 internet leads with a pretty low conversion rate, or I can have 1,000 people that live in my community that know I sell real estate. And if I just make sure I stay in touch with them, I'm gonna sell 10 times more real estate.
Yep.
And it has worked for me, just working the database. Every single person I meet, every single person I connect with goes into my database on a connection follow-up plan, means you're gonna hear my voice multiple times throughout the year.
Okay, so what can I expect? You just put me into the database.
Yeah, so when we just met at a Christmas party or a holiday party or whatever, and we connected. So I talked to probably 20, 30 people. I don't put 20 people in my database the next day. I connected with 3 or 4 people that we really had fun. In fact, I just did this at my home in my neighborhood. I'm starting to take over my neighborhood, and I realized how many people know me in the neighborhood that we see each other a couple times a week and are not in my database yet, right? So I connect with you at the football game, even though we've been neighbors now for 3 years, but I'm on purpose putting you in the database, and first thing I do is drop a note.
Okay.
Actually, let me back up. First thing I do is get you in the database. Make sure I have your address. I've probably got your phone number in my cell phone. And if I don't have your email, I'm going to Google and I'll find you on Facebook or something. And some people have it there. So I do a little bit of reconnaissance, creeping. I'm a creeper, professional creeper. So I creep and I find address, phone number, and email. I don't even care about email because it's more about the personal touch, the voice, and dropping a handwritten note in the mail.
Yep.
Those are my 2 things. I got to get you in the database, start my follow-up plan, and the first thing on there is send a note.
Okay.
And my note is non-branded. It doesn't even have my card in it. It is just so great hanging with you last night. Thanks for all the fun laughs, Brad. There's no I, there's no me, there's no my in the note. Like, I'm so glad we were connected last night. Hey, if you know anybody that I can help sell real estate, let me know. So what I learned is 98, 99.5% of the people I meet today aren't moving today. So why am I pushing real estate on them today?
Right.
What I'm doing is talking to 100% of the people, and the 1% or 2% that are moving today or this month, they'll bring it up. I don't have to even bring it up. And then I can roll into my normal stuff. So I'm just connecting with people on a local level. The handwritten note is the magic piece, though. When they get that in the mail, it makes you feel good, right? Yeah. And so what happens, I've learned from my friend Rene Rodriguez, he studies the brain and all that stuff. You move from that limbic part of the brain, which is our natural defense mechanism to block things out. Like I was just talking about the sales call I got yesterday, right? I don't even have time for this. I can't hear, he could tell me he's got $1 million for me and I'm not gonna hear anything he says past his opening.
Right.
Right? So, but when I write the note, I get past that limbic part of the brain and they say, ooh, that made me feel good. Now they can process the information that I want to get through to them, that I know the market and I'm the market specialist because they like Brad and they trust Brad, and I wasn't a salesperson. Man, it is tough to break out of in real estate. We want the next real estate deal, but you got to not sell real estate to get the next deal.
It's relationships. This is the relationship-based business.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what can I expect to happen? I've gotten the note. I'm happy that you sent it. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
What do I hear from next?
Yeah, so top of mind marketing means it's repetitive and it's fast in the very beginning, because right now I'm not top of mind. I just made you feel good.
Yeah.
So something has to hit about every week, and I mix my mediums up. In fact, I talked about this in 2007. It's like, you got to mix the mediums up. We've all gone so heavy to email or text messages, and think about it, a stranger getting, everybody's doing it. How many people are responding to your email and your text every single day? 99% are not.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and call them, just like yesterday. So what would happen is my system, I set up a series of events, just an action plan in my database, and it will pop up in 7 days. It'll send an email. So I've called them, talked to them, connected. They get the handwritten note. 7 days later, an email shows up, and it's just a link. Hey, if you're curious what a neighbor's house is listed for, here's a link that you can keep handy, right? Then the next week, it'll pop up and it'll say, send a text message. And it's like, hey, I was just thinking of you. It was great connecting. 7 days later, it'll pop up and say, call. So then I just call. And again, here's where you got to get out of your real estate old mind. I just call going, hey, it was so fun meeting or hanging out at New Year's or whatever the holiday party may have been. I was just thinking of you and wanted to say, hey. Most of the time you get voicemail those first couple times, right?
Sure.
But then it goes on for 8 weeks. And on the 8th week is another phone call. So I'm going to call them 2 more times after they've received the handwritten note. So they hear my voice on their phone, and I do not care if it's a voicemail. Agents always say, well, what do you say? Whatever. Just say, hey, I was thinking of you, right? My second phone call 8 weeks later, if you're going to find they answer the phone more then because they've gotten the note, you left a voicemail. It wasn't urgent. You don't need to call me back about anything. I'm not using any real estate scripts on them yet because they're not moving yet anyway, or they would call me. Right. And so it gets that 8th call, and sometimes that conversation, they'll answer the phone more. And I'm just like, oh, hey, what's going on? Anything going on? Blah, blah, how you guys doing? You know, and then they'll say something like, hey, you sent me something about my neighbor's house. Is that guy really going to get $1.5 million for his house? I was like, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's been on the market for 45 days already. We'll see. I mean, I hope he does. It's in our neighborhood, right? Whatever. So see, I'm just rolling conversations about real estate naturally. And then
great.
So after those 8 weeks, I'm not going to hammer them every single week for the rest of their life. I will spread that out a little bit, but it's definitely more than once a month or twice a month.
What are you using for CRM? We always get that question.
Yes, I know. And I hate to answer it because I hate it as much as my last 12 or 13 that I've had. There's things it doesn't do.
What are you tolerating right now?
Yeah, I'm tolerating Top Producer right now, but I'll tell you specifically why and how they might not be there anymore because they're discontinuing supporting the one thing that I love the most, and that is the letter that will print out to my local printer that I can, in my office, that I can put in an envelope and put a stamp on it and send it.
Wow.
Sounds nuts.
Yeah.
But it's not mass marketing. See, what's happening is...
No, what's nuts is that they're getting rid of it.
They're not supporting the letters anymore because nobody else is. Everybody's automating the text message, automating the email, automating. And I've got the automation in Top Producer. Like, I don't have the automated text. I wish they had that. That sucks. But what's in my system is 8 to 10 where I have to physically do the activity that it's telling me to do. So I have an automatic email go out. They'll get 3 or 4 of those a year. I'll have an automatic text go out. They get that 2 or 3 times a year. The letters are going out, but I get to see their name. I'm telling you, this is what's key for me, is I'm seeing their name, and the letter, it's not about the content. They're not reading my letter. I learned that from a Star Power star. It's like, you think they're reading your content? Yeah, and everybody's like, no, my open rate's amazing on this newsletter. Really? Call through your entire database and ask them, hey, what was your favorite article in that newsletter I just sent? They don't know. So it's about seeing the logo and seeing my name, but even more importantly, I trash those letters, which I still do today. Like, let's just say I get 100 letters a day that print, right? And they go in an envelope, but I'm seeing all of them. And some of them, I mean, some of them are just generic, and 90% of those people are internet leads that I'm trying to convert, but I'm getting some mail in front of them. I don't know who the name is off the top of just looking at the name. So it's just going in the envelope, boom, 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 boom. But there's 10 or 12 people a day that it catches my attention. It's like, oh, Happy New Year, or saw your son won the baseball game. That's so cool. And so I'm trashing these letters. When they open that up, they're not reading the content.
You say trashing, I say enhancing.
Yes.
I think that's a better term.
I like that. Yes, I'm enhancedly trashing the letter. But yeah, it's just a quick note. That's all they're going to read. But it's as if I just made another phone call.
Yeah.
So it sounds, again, it's like you sit there and put letters in your envelope. Been doing it for 30 years. And it's the one thing I will do every single day. It's done before the sun comes up. What am I going to do? Sleep instead? I mean, I'm going to connect with 10 or 12 people with a personal touch through that letter. And I can tell you right now today, even in this crazy market, I've seen it more like when real estate is good and it's flowing, you don't really pay attention to what's working. You're just busy. But when it's like this market right now that we're in, there are people calling me that I've left messages for, we've not connected. I know I just sent them a letter with a quick note. Literally got a text message from a guy before I came here. And he's like, hey, I really need to get that house on the market. I met him probably a year ago. his house is almost ready, but every weekend he thinks he's going to get over there and work on it and work on it, work on it. And I've told him several times, you don't need to do anything else. There's no inventory. Your house looks good. And I'll put on the note, you still ready to get that house on the market? So it's been wearing him down. And I literally sent him that letter a week ago with a little trash note on it. And he finally calls me and goes, yeah, it's time to get that thing on the market.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it worked. I mean, the letters literally work.
So I'm hearing consistency, I'm hearing persistence, I'm hearing relationship, focus on the individual. And
it's focusing on the individual is really hard to do because it's the mundane basics that you do every day. And what's fun is I do that in the morning. That's my mundane. And my boss is my system. It tells me who my calls are for today, who my to-dos are for today, and it prints the letters out and I get them in the mail, right? I can still have a team member do it too, but I'm telling you, I don't give it away completely because that is my personal touch. But then the rest of the day, I can still go do my Facebook post, all this other stuff. But it's about bringing that individual relationship back, because I would rather talk to 1,000 people in my community that I already know than 1,000 strangers and try and convince them that I'm the agent that can help them find the house they want when they don't know me from Adam.
Yeah, and they're getting called by other people.
Yeah, I learned another valuable lesson, Amy, on internet leads this last couple of years.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
The people that I convert, because I am good at conversion too. I've got a very intense action plan for an internet lead conversion. The system tells me to call day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's sending emails out to them too, and I'm dropping a letter in the mail. I'm hitting them from all different mediums, and I'm calling them 3 times in 3 days, and then my system gives me a break and them a break, and it pops up in 5 days. And then I give them a break again till 12 days. And then I've called them, 5 times in 12 days, and that plan will run for 45 days. So more emails will keep going out and all that. At the end of 45 days, they'll say, this plan has ended. So it makes me in 45 days go back and look, I made 5 call attempts. They never answered the phone. I've sent some other emails. They haven't responded. Now, 1% of the people will respond to one of those things somewhere. But the other 99%, why am I going to call those people? Well, I've got another 5 leads that come in the next day and another 5 leads that come in the next day. In 45 days, I've got 100 more leads in my system.
Yeah.
Why am I going to keep calling somebody from 45 days ago every single day, or have my call team doing that, you know?
Yeah.
They're just not doing anything right now. Now they will move on to a plan where I will stay in touch with them for a year. Now they won't get as much as somebody that I've connected with, but it might be the once a month. And sure enough, 6 months down the road, they are finally ready and they get something from me at the right time. And I convert this lead from 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So what I learned about it is the ones that I do convert up front and I get them out and I either get their house listed or I find them a house. I've been getting bad reviews from somebody I sold their house in 10 days for 98% of their asking price, smooth sale, right? And they gave me a bad review. So one of the sellers, she wasn't in the area, it was an internet lead conversion. I sold her house fast. It was a smooth sale, done deal, no reason to expect anything. I got a 1 review. So I called her and I'm like, hey, I just saw your review and I worked so hard to deliver great service and I'm looking at our sale and it was a great sale. You got what you wanted. You dropped the price because you wanted to drop it and take it and blah, blah, blah. So I explained how this was a great deal. He goes, yeah, my neighbor told me that you sold it. You made me drop my price and you sold it to your niece or something like that. I'm like, ma'am, I wasn't the agent. There was another agent with a different company involved. It wasn't my niece. It was another agent at a different company. And she goes, well, you can do whatever you want with the review. And I'm like, well, no, I can't. You have to change it. She's like, well, that's what my neighbor told me. So here's what I learned.
Wow.
Our internet leads, even when we do a great job, there's not a relationship there. It's so shallow that they're going to believe somebody that they like and trust on whatever story they tell them versus what they had, what the actual experience was. That blew my mind. And it's just like, wow. So even while I was working on trying to figure out the code to convert more of these internet leads, these 1,000 people, I wanted to close 20 of them, not 1. They're shallow relationships and there's not much business behind it, where your local community they're doing business with you 3 and 4 times,
Right.
and they're telling their church friends and their family and their work friends about you and about their experience every time.
You mentioned in there a couple of times things that you might delegate versus things you keep for yourself. You've been through an evolution over the 30 years you've been in the business of
Yeah.
what a team looked like.
Yep.
It was Brad and Brad only, and then you built way up.
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about that evolutionary process and where you've landed?
Yeah. Well, so this is what, the 12th or 13th kind of real estate market we're in that's different from crash markets to sellers markets to buyers markets. So
COVID market.
Yeah. So what I've heard with the team is you contract and you expand and contract and expand and contract with the market and how it's doing. So many people today have gone all the way back to the primary agent that used to give everything away is now doing the sales again, right? So I expand and contract, and it's the systems that drive the business. The people just run the systems. So when we were at a point that business was so busy and profit was there that we could bring people on and share the profitability. Like I don't have to make $10 million, you know? I mean, I'm gonna add people and get leverage if I've got $10 million coming in. That would be a lot of houses in Kansas City, by the way. I mean, if I could even hit $1 million, right? So when I get to the point where my business is profitable and I can add somebody in and get the leverage, that's when I add people on my team. And with my systems, so like if I list a house, from the time I list a house until it closes, if I had a marketing manager, they would take over those spots on the marketing and I would just put their name in front of it on my plans and we would start running that one. So in the morning, like right now, I'm an individual agent. So all those checklist items, I have an assistant too, I should say. So on my checklist items, anything that's boots on the ground has got to be me because I don't have another team member doing that. Anything that has to do with contracts that can be done virtually has Lori's name in front of it.
Okay.
So in the morning, I can literally just check the boxes for Lori, send them to her and go, here's your things to do for today. And what's crazy is like, if we have 5 listings running right now, somebody's on week 1 since we've listed their house, somebody just listed yesterday and another one's been on the market for 45 days. So different things are happening, but it's the same process and it's spreading it out versus doing it in bulk, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense completely.
So what I love about Top Producer, and this is, I don't know any other one that does this, is I can cherry pick certain items and send that to whoever I want. It could have my name on it, but my daughter comes home from college and says, hey, I think I want to start helping you with your real estate business. I could like give her 50% of my stuff one day and see how it goes before I just change all my systems and add her in.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, she realizes, nah, I think I want to go back to doing what I was doing before, right? So I can cherry pick things. It also allows me, if I have 20 calls today, 5 of those people are pretty important that I know I need to make that call. So I'll select them, and that's my first page I print. And then the other page I print behind it, because if I don't get to those, it's not going to be critical. I can still try to get to them tomorrow. But again, tomorrow's going to give me another call list.
Yep.
So I just do as much as I can, which is 100% more than I did if I was just winging it.
Right.
Like I would probably only call those 5 important people if I was winging it. I say winging it, which, most of us are pretty professional. We know what we're doing, and so we do things naturally, but 80% of what we should be doing is not being done naturally.
Right.
So my system holds me accountable to that 80% stuff, and I might get 60% of it done.
So I know you've jumped from a lot of CRMs, but what I'm hearing you say is you found the one that would give you the things that were most important to you, and you're not worrying about the rest.
Not worrying about it, yeah.
I think that's important for you guys to hear because Brad, I can't tell you, every week somebody's asking me the question, which CRM should I be using?
Yeah.
And the transition, as you know, from doing it so many times is super painful. So making the system work for you instead of trying to find the perfect system.
So I might share a perfect, an actionable item that anybody that's listening to this is going through this CRM struggle. Whatever CRM you're in, or whatever spreadsheet you have all your people in, your data list or database, if you want to figure out what CRM you want to use, here's how I would share it. Take your whole list and move 5 people a day into the CRM you want to use. If you got 2 or 3 and you can do a 30-day trial, sign up for 3 of them. Put 3 people in one, 3 people in another, 3 people in another. That would be, 9 people a day I'm making contact with. But to move them off my other list or my other database, you got to pick up the phone and call them and drop a handwritten note in the mail. The systems aren't up yet. Just do those 2 things. You will double your business. You don't export everybody and import them into a new database. It has never, ever, ever worked. It will shut you down business-wise for 2 to 3 weeks to clean everything up. Not everything will transfer. You'll be a total mess. Every single person that's ever tried to do it, that's all I've ever heard the result be, right? But if you just take 5 people a day and move them into this new database, 2 things are happening. 1, I'm connecting with everybody before I put them in. That's the most important thing you could do. Second thing is, I know all these people are still sitting on this list. They haven't heard from you. Well, they're not anyway, so don't worry about that. So I move these 5 people in, I move them, but now I'm just figuring out how to add 5 people into the database. That's a chore in itself. It might take me an hour just to figure out how to put their name and address in.
Well, you're learning the new system.
Tomorrow I add 5 more people. Oh, I got the name and address in easy, but now where's this? How do I toggle that? Whatever. 5 people the next day. 5 in 30 days. You'll have a master class on that database because you know it inside and out. You know everything it does and everything it doesn't do.
So excuse number 1, but Brad, I have 5,000 people in my database. That's going to take forever.
Yep, 5 years. 5 years at 5 a day. But guess what? You're not going to do anything with them in the next 5 years anyway, other than just keep doing what you're doing. Let your little automated thing run. Let you do your business that you're doing with your 5,000. But once you move them into your new system, put them on the more aggressive follow-up plan. It's not, your business isn't going to change. It's going to get 10 times better. But yeah, it's only 1,000. If you did 5 people a day, 5 days a week, and you did it every day for 2024, you will have 1,200 people that you've personally talked to, received your handwritten note that said it was so great connecting. Whether you do anything after that, your business is going to double or triple.
Okay, so the next excuse number 2, but I'm so busy. When am I going to find time to do this?
Love it. Love it. So I can only talk from experience.
Yes, sir.
You get to ease into this crazy 100 sales a year because you're not going to have 100 sales tomorrow. If I add 5 people today, 5 people tomorrow, 5 people the next day, in 30 days, I'll have added 100 people, right?
Yep.
So in 30 days, I'm not top of mind with these 100 people yet. But what I do know is if they're moving every 5 to 10 years, somewhere around 10 to 20 of those people are moving in the next 12 months. We're just talking the first month,
Yep.
right? 10 to 20 of those people are moving in the next 12 months. But for month number 2, it's only 1 or 2 of them that are moving next month. So I have to be top of mind with all 100 to get both deals next month. I'm not going to be there yet. I'm not going to be top of mind for these 100 people until 3 months, 4 months, 6 months from now. So in 6 months, I'll probably there's an opportunity for 6 to 12 sales in the next 6 months. I'll catch 6 of them. But you'll see those 6 are pretty easy to do over 6 months.
Yeah.
Now the next 6 months, I still won't be top of mind with the second batch that I put in during that 6 months. Following me?
Yep.
But I will grab another 6 from those, and now I'm grabbing 8 or 10 from the first group because now I'm more top of mind. So what you do is you grow into your business gradually so you can add the people and add the things that you need to get.
Compound Effect by Brad Korn.
God, crazy.
It's simple.
It's simple.
Why don't
It's not going
people
to
do it?
overwhelm you. And exporting your 5,000 people into this new system, I promise you, you won't have 100 sales out of that either. You'll have the same thing you had at the old one. So yeah, it's a compound growth and you get to grow into it.
Okay, excuse number 3. But Brad, I don't want to pay for 2 systems.
Yeah, how much are databases now?
Depends on the database.
Depends on the database. There's free ones. Top Producer is like $35 a month. Not that that's the great price. What I probably wouldn't do, what I would caution anyone from is the ones that charge by how many people you have in the database. Because there's some out there that they're charging $500, $1,000 a month. You don't need those. All you need is something to remind you to pick up the phone and call everybody every quarter, every 3 months.
Yeah.
So 4 times a year, four personal touches a year, whether that's the chicken scratch on the letter or a personal text going, hey, I just saw your Facebook post, whatever, stay connected with your community. So I know, like, even plugging into Facebook, we put our whole lives on Facebook. So what I do is I go from A to Z in my database and I set up a trigger spread out over the year to where 5 people a day, it tells me to go look at their Facebook. Well, that's how I make the personal touch for that person. Tomorrow it'll be another 5 people. Tomorrow will be, and again, forget about whether they're buying or selling real estate.
Yeah.
This is just about staying top of mind and saying, not just doing a like button, but actually sending them a direct message.
I want to anchor on that.
Yeah.
Birthdays.
Yeah.
So many people just get on the bandwagon and add one more happy birthday message.
I get about 800 of them. I mean, I know, like, as agents, or my wife at one time would be like, you got 700. I only got 500 people that said happy birthday. I only know who 2 of those people are that said happy birthday on my like page, and it's the 2 that picked up the phone and called me. And there's still 2 people today that still call me on my birthday. Those are the only 2 I know like me on my birthday. So here's what I do on my birthdays. I love it because I pull it off of Facebook and I send them a birthday email. And I got the call. So I have 3 different plans. I have an all email plan that's just going on their birthday. And I'll share something else on that though too. That's pretty cool. Some people I put on the call plan, so they get the email birthday and they get a call. Some people actually get a card. So there's 3 different, and I don't put everybody on a call. I don't put everybody on a card because some of the people are just past clients from 5 years ago. I don't need to pick up the phone and call them necessarily.
Right.
But the one thing everybody gets on is the email. And I do a half birthday.
Oh, clever.
I get more results, more calls to me on my half birthday email than I do on their birthday email.
Of course.
So a couple things happen there. I get off of Facebook. I do direct message some people just right there when I see it's their birthday. But when I put them on the automated plan, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Right.
It'll tell me when to call. It'll tell me when to do all that stuff. But the half birthday flies out as an email. And what it is, it's the birthday card that was on the email. I graphically tore it in half, and it says, happy half birthday. Now, I'm not saying 100% of the people call me on it,
right.
But they are like, that's pretty cool.
But it's the same concept as home anniversary. Nobody else contacts them on that day.
Yeah.
So you're standing out again.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now loop back to the team conversation.
Okay.
We were talking about evolution of the team. So solo Brad with assistant right now. At one point, you grew your team to... You have
9. I had 9 people on my team. Yep.
So what are your triggers to make a decision about that contracting or expanding?
So I have been trying to add another team member for the last 2 years. And I say trying because how I make that decision is the year I went solo, I did 70 deals instead of my typical 100 deals, right? I figured out I lost 30 deals. So my brain goes to ROI, and it's on if I can put somebody in that can pick up those 30 deals, and we're on a 50-50 split, whatever that, like a team member, if they would capture all 30 deals and we're on a 50-50 split, I would at least get half of those 30 back. But if they're not going to do anything, then I'm not going to add them. And if they're going to bring more business, my objective would be to get them to 60. So they bring in 30 extra and pick up the 30 that we lost, and now I made the same amount of money I was making before. So when I put people in, if they don't get on that path pretty quick, it's back out. I mean, it's like, and really, all they have to do is just call these people that you put in the database yesterday, call a week ago, a month ago. That's all they have to do is just add every
setting them
day.
up to do exactly what you're doing.
Add people every day. If you don't do that, you're already getting strike 1. Then if you don't call the people that I send you the call list, here they are. There's their call people. If they don't do that, you're strike number 2. There's usually not a strike number 3 because they just leave. Because I'm just on them all the time about, you didn't feed the database today. Are you out of business? Are you getting out of real estate? You didn't call people today. Because I'll call people too, just because it's in my database too. And hey, did you talk to them lately? Oh, we haven't heard from them in months. It's like, oh, well, I was just checking on you. Everything going good in the house and everything? Yeah, play it off. It's like, dude, you're not making the calls. Actually, here's the best part. I can actually predict that I know for a fact you're not making the calls, because if you have 100 people in the database and you don't have 2 or 3 deals happening the next month, as you get it in there and you become top of mind. So if we go 3 months, you should be closing 2 or 3 deals every single month if you made every call and you fed the database every day. The numbers are the truth.
Yeah.
They are fact, they are predictable, and they are happening. So the only reason you're not getting them is you're not adding them and you're not following up with them. You put them on an automatic email or you didn't even put them in the database.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you could be that black and white about it?
Well, it happened probably 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. But it was the last 20, 25 years of doing it every day and hitting 100 sales, 100 sales. It's like when December came up, it's like I knew I was going to close 8 to 10 in January. I knew I was going to close 8 to 10 in February. I knew I was going to close 8 to 10 and that just kept happening. All markets, all the time. So whether I had a team of 9 or whether it was me, it was 100 sales a year, 100 sales a year. So even when I added team members, they didn't do what I was doing, or we would have went to 200 sales, 300 sales.
Right.
So that leverage, it's kind of like you got to look at what holding a team accountable versus just doing my own deals, the profitability without all the overhead. I mean, you just get rid of a lot of headaches and you just get to go live in your community, have fun, and make some good money.
You love what you're doing.
Oh, I get goosebumps on a listing. If I had a listing appointment this afternoon, I will have goosebumps while I'm opening up the conversation. Yeah.
I think that's important for people to hear because a lot of people say, well, I'm going to do this for 10 years. I'm going to build a team and then I'll get out of the day-to-day.
Yeah.
You're still loving it.
Yeah.
What do you say to the people who say, Brad, don't you want to retire and go do something else?
Yeah. I kind of am retired.
No, you're not.
Kinda. I mean, if you love what you do, it's not work.
Right.
Right? All I'm doing is living in my community and I'm benefiting from the real estate career on a great income and I get to live at the lake and have stuff paid off and enjoy life. But it's a long process. I'm still not the smartest one. There's a lot more smarter Star Power stars that have set up their retirement. So I'm not the smartest guy in the shed. I mean, I still have to sell a house here and there, but it doesn't feel like work to me.
Yeah.
It's really just people are calling you going, man, you're the guy. And I get to help them, not sell them. So it's funny that you just said that because I just kind of remember when I said I have goosebumps at the listing appointment. There's no sales pitch. I'm not going in going, all right, I got to sell these people better than the last guy and I got to cover more stuff and I got to impress them with all the things I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. It's just Brad Korn sitting down going, what do you guys really want to happen here? Let's just make that happen.
What a concept, asking people what's important to them.
Yeah.
Okay, there's so many other things I want to cover and I know we only have a certain amount of time. Let's talk about 2023 was a dumpster fire for a lot of people. Yeah. You talked about in order to maintain the volume you want to accomplish, that you had to expand your market. What does that look like?
Yeah, so with this changing market, I mean, a lot of things, even being a solo agent was a change that I had to make to get my systems on track better because I turned my whole business over to someone and they didn't do anything with the systems. And in 2-year period of time, I was like down to maybe 20 sales a year coming out of my database because the systems weren't running. And when those systems end, nobody was restarting them. So I spent the past 3 or 4 years going through name by name, reconnecting, putting them back on the plan and doing all that stuff. So I had to make a shift.
You mean you worked your plan just exactly the way you described it?
The way I started it.
What
before.
A concept.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah. And that's where I did like 66 sales as a solo agent without even an assistant 1 year. Now the profitability was awesome. And this was during 2020 was COVID. So that year I did 70 sales. No overhead during that time, but it was all relationships. These people still have to move, whether it's COVID or not.
Yeah.
So, and I still wasn't capturing, I'm still not capturing 100% of my database because it's just, but I'm capturing way more than I would if I was trying to do anything else. So back to what you were saying, that was a conscious decision that I need to go solo, get all my systems back on track because I can't bring a team member in that's going to get it. The people that were on my team who heard it every day didn't get it. Mm-hmm. That people that have heard me talk about this for 20-something years don't get it because they would be doing 100 sales a year or more, right?
Yeah.
So I made a conscious decision to do that. when we rolled into this market in 2023, my database was actually churning out half the activity. So even though I'm still top of mind in everything, because of their low interest rate that they have, why would they move? All the things we talk about in the industry, well, it's a real number. So my sales were going down under 50 sales a year. So I had to look and go, what is the gap? Well, the gap is my database and relationship people aren't moving right now because they are at 2 and 3%, and they'll move in 5 years or 10 years, but they're not moving now. So I had to make a major move in my career that I would have never thought was coming, but I had to go to someone who already had relationships with the pre-approved buyers coming directly from big names like Rocket Mortgage and Amerisave and all that. But he's got the relationships inside. Like, we're not buying leads. We're getting pre-approved buyers that are excited about getting their pre-approval letter today. I'm putting them in the car right now today and going. So that model filled my gap, and it got me back to 6 to 8 closings a month.
How did you find that person?
You know what? Sometimes things just happen by luck. If you use up all your bad luck when you're younger, you'll only have good luck left. I think I told you that last night.
Good job.
Yes. It was a network person called me and said, hey, they're opening up Missouri and Kansas. Do you know somebody that could do that? I'm just Brad Korn selling my houses, right?
Yeah.
My gosh, you guys sound like you really got your act together. There's nobody here that I could recommend. I mean, everybody here is just, if they're a broker, they're sitting in an office collecting a paycheck because they didn't make it as a real estate agent. Not everybody's that way, but
Right.
You get what I'm saying? The person that they were describing, there's nobody I could recommend in my market. And I literally just said, I mean, the only person that's going to do that for you guys is me, because it was all about relationships and building relationships. And we only have to bring in enough agents to handle the leads that are already coming, pre-approved buyers.
Right.
If somebody says, I got 200 pre-approved buyers this year for Kansas City, I really only need 10 agents, and everybody can do 20 deals a year. So
Yeah.
that lined up with my model. But what it was that there wasn't anybody I could recommend. And when I said that, that's when he said, well, why don't you just talk to him? And so I talked to him, and I'm like, man, this is so me. Like, the average agent is doing 20 deals a year, and I've been trying to get people to do this database stuff so that they can do what they're doing to keep their base and then take the database and take their business to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy's giving them the base that I need to help them with the database.
Yeah.
So I can provide a lot of value for the agents if I do this move. So what it did for me, though, is I got to prove it worked and got me back and filled my gap.
Yeah.
So now I can really go find the people that I know were doing 30 and 40 deals a year, and they're sitting where I'm sitting doing 10, and go, guys, come on. You get to keep doing your thing. Come over here and get 20 more and get back to normal.
Yeah.
And then focus back on your database so that we don't have to rely on this to feed us. So my big push is, I don't want you to live off of this. This is gravy. This is your base to do this, which
Yeah.
is what we've been talking about this whole time now.
You're just supplementing.
Supplementing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, you are a systems junkie. For somebody who's either new to the business or you've been at it a while and you fly by the seat of your pants, what are the absolute must-have systems from your perspective? I see you brought your call sheets with you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is still number one. This is as old as Star Power gets right here. Color coded sheet, yellow for seller and blue for buyer, right? And I have a green one for investors.
Okay.
And it makes me get their information. So here's a crazy concept. We sell real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Real estate is what? An address? What if your database is a database of addresses and the people are just occupying that address? So you're creating relationships with the people in that address, but you're going to move them to another address. Mm-hmm. So the database should be a database of every address in your community, and you're going to create relationships with the people holding that spot. Just think about it for a minute. And because when you look at most people's databases, over 90% of their database has no addresses. We sell real estate. I can show you a ton of people with big real estate businesses that have names and emails,
Really?
but they don't have addresses.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's very real. Just go from your database from A to Z. However many, if you have 10,000 people, have somebody go through and tell you how many don't have addresses in your database, and we sell real estate. How do you not know where they live? I mean, it's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
So on that was capturing the information. So back to what you asked, what would my system be? Well, a system is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And when I wrote the book with Michael Gerber, E-Myth Real Estate Agent, he talks about how we make everything way more difficult than it needs to be. And it's like, I want to understand step 7 before I've even started step 1, right? So step 1 is go to Facebook, pull up your friends tab. Seriously, do it this way, promise me you will do this. Grab a notebook, just start writing every name on your Facebook friends list. These are friends. I mean, Facebook says you're friends, so they know you. You must have crossed paths somewhere, right?
Yep.
And if they're in your community, and if they're not in your community, what do we get as a real estate agent when they move? Referral fee. So everybody's moving. So your entire Facebook friends list is moving, right? Write down every name in a notebook. So your brain is like, you're not going to know who 90% of these names are, which is causing your brain to go, why don't I know who this person is? They're my Facebook friend, right? Write them down in a notebook. And then I'm just going to use that as my working sheet to step number 2 is to find an address, phone number, and email for them. And again, I don't even care about the email. Because if I don't call them and write the handwritten note, it doesn't matter if I have their email. Right? So address and phone number for sure. And that's your working document. Every day you're going to open that up, and every name and number that doesn't have an address with it and a phone number, you're not going to get the 10x return until you get that. So I work on that every day. And then once I get 100 people with names, addresses, and phone numbers, then I can move them into the database when I pick up the phone and call them and write the handwritten note. So that's my trigger to get them into my database. And so here's the side benefit that you won't know is happening, but it will be, is you sit there and look at all these names in this notebook and you think you're losing all this business, but you weren't doing anything with your Facebook friends list before today. So the longer they sit in there, the more it drives you crazy. But what you never will do is sit down and call 100 people every day for 5 days.
Right.
So just move them. And as soon as you move them into the database because you had their address and phone number, take a black permanent marker and cross them out. If you're using spreadsheets, highlight the whole row and delete them. Because if they're in your database, you're good, right?
Yep.
You called them, you wrote your note, you don't need them in that list anymore. So step 1 is just to make a list of everybody. Heck, go through your contacts record in your cell phone. These are people that called our cell phone number, right? Even if they were a spammer, they live in my community, if they're in the same area code, right? Or they're going to move. So write every name down, write every phone number down, figure out whose name it is, then find their address, then pick up the phone and call them. You're the relocation specialist for the entire world, right? So it's step 1 is make one list, get all your list into one place. And then step 2 is to move them into your database by picking up the phone and calling. And yes, it is your next 5 to 10 year plan for real estate. But if you pile that on, you said it, compound that year after year after year, it's 1,200 people this year, which is 120 sales minimum that are going to happen whether you got in touch with them or not. The next year when I add 1,200 more people, 5 people a day, 5 days a week, right? Now I've got 2,400 people in there. So now I've got an opportunity for 240 sales my second year of doing this. All you need to do is capture 50 or 60 of them by accident, right? By year 3.
But it's not by accident.
No, it's not. It's on purposely by accident. But by year 3, I have 3,600 people. There is a minimum of 360 people moving in that 3rd year. You're going to capture 200 of them. So see, you get to grow into it this way. And it's just amazing that we make it more difficult than it needs to be because we're going to do it in some high-tech spreadsheet instead of write the name down in a notebook. We're going to do all this stuff. And then in a week or 2, we're like, this ain't really doing anything yet. Nope, you got 6 months to do this every day consistently. You'll give up on it and you'll buy the next internet program or the next mailing program or the next this, and you give up on it.
You're pretty self-accountable. What is your advice to people who aren't as driven as you are to stay committed to this process?
Man, I can fool you that easy. I am ADD guy, right? I was ADD before they knew what ADD was. I'm not self-driven. My system is driving me.
Thank you.
My system keeps me on track every day. I do report to it. Now, I have to play a little game in my mind like, this is my boss. I have to tell myself that every day because something comes up. It's like, hey, we got a guy bailed on the golf tournament. You want to come play today? You know, it's free. Well, if I didn't do my system, it's going to be sitting there tomorrow. And I already know tomorrow is going to kick out the same amount of things and I won't get it done if I don't do it. So I'm making a conscious decision that I'm giving up business today if I go do it or knock this out and I'll be there. You know, so that's why a lot of my stuff gets done before the sun comes up. I'm doing my letters, I'm doing my checking my database, finding missing addresses. So what I will tell you is the system keeps me more that way. Now, that system is me. It's what I know I need to do to be accountable to myself and to be diligent and to be that way. So I've created a system to make sure I stay that way. So it is still me, but I wouldn't do it on a daily basis. It's hard to be disciplined.
Well, you found a way to wire around the bad stuff, as Mike Watkins used to say to all of us.
Yeah, I will say on that, the way I found is I send myself an email every day that says, did you add 5 people today? And I get that email every single day and I can choose to ignore it or I can just click the link where I just have to put the name and address of somebody I met yesterday in so they go into the database and see top producer. It automatically starts the follow-up plan. So tomorrow it's going to say, did you send them a note? Actually, today it will say, day 0, it says, did you send a note? But I'll look at my task list tomorrow and go, oh yeah, got sidetracked and I didn't send that note when I added the person. But see, I told myself that I had to add somebody today.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing that I mean, if I don't feed my database every day, I'm out of business. That's the only thing my brain thinks. Everything else just tells me what to do.
Well, I applaud you for getting the system set up to accommodate what you need. As you look now forward at what's happening in the marketplace and where you want to go personally, what kind of crystal ball this thing a little bit?
Yeah.
What do you anticipate's coming in the year ahead, and what are you doing to prepare for it?
Yeah. So again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I am in the business enough and I hang around great people that are my friends and we all talk all the time about what's going on. I think you're going to see this, what we're in right now, this shortage of homes. Actually, it's just the whole economics of real estate is way out of whack. It's not textbook anymore. So I think it's going to be the next 2 or 3 years, which is why I made the change that I made, because that's going to need to fill the gap for 2 or 3 years. What I'm going to tell you right now, my crystal ball is, this is finally the year that you will do what I'm talking about, the whole first part and second part and third part of this interview, because right now you can start building those relationships. Whatever you've got going right now is your old co, your old company is what Michael Gerber calls it. We're going to add this new co because it's not an immediate return. It's about relationships. You don't, not too many people meet somebody online and get married the next day, right? So you got to start, you have a bonus opportunity right now to get those relationships in place, and you can have 2,400 people in the next 2 years that have gotten a handwritten note from you and they hear your voice 3 to 4 times a year. It doesn't even matter if you miss one of them. If you call them 3 times a year, if you totally botch this thing and you call them 2 times a year instead of 4, you will be so much better off than if you just keep doing what you're doing now. Go from A to Z and make a list of everybody on your list right now and put a check mark to anyone you've talked to in the last 30 days. Look at how many people have not heard your voice in the last 30 days. It's all of them, except the people that you just closed.
Thank you for affirming everything I've been telling my coaching clients for years.
So the crystal ball is right now, you have the best bonus 2 years to really do this. I'm talking 5 a day, every day, 5 days a week. Make this a job. And it will be a job for the first year. The second year, you'll have done it for a year. It'll be so habit, and you'll see the results already coming from it, that it won't be a chore the second year. It'll be like a have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Any of the stars in the network have a particularly strong influence on you that you want to give a shout out to?
I'd have to name like almost all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it is just showing up at the airport to come to the interview, you know, bumping into Shane. You know, it's like I'm ordering an Uber and I look up and Shane's there and his Uber's here. And I'm like, cancel, get with you. No, it's about, well, again,
It's the power of the family right there.
power of the family. So I can't even give you a name or two because once I met you and we connected, we're in touch,
Yeah.
right? So it's family. It's family for me, everybody.
Well, Brad,
Pull up the roster and look at it. That's who I would mention. Yes.
I appreciate you're in my family.
I love you too.
Oh, I love you, Brad. Thank you for agreeing to do the interview. I hope you guys have taken as much out of this as I have. You've got me fired up to do some things I've been saying I was going to do and haven't gotten to yet. So thank you for that. Please tell some of your friends in the industry about Brad's interview and get them listening. Membership has its privileges, and we'd love to have more members. Bring them to the table. Brad, thanks again so much for being here, for being so authentic. No
Yes.
holds barred.
You know, if you tuned in, you were like, he's going to have the best AI secrets of the planet. Listen, nobody wants to talk to a robot, and you're never, ever going to make it you. Just layer this into your old business. Do whatever you want, AI, do whatever you want. Layer this in and just stay in touch with people.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
On behalf of our whole network, I'm Amy Stair, CEO of Star Power, and we look forward to having you at the next interview.